Raising women's voices, one story at a time. Welcome to the She Said Project podcast. It's time. It's time to start another amazing episode of the She Said Project podcast. This is Jenette Jerzyk, National Director of the She Said Project, here in the Illinois Public Media Studios with my beautiful friend, Kerry Rosso, who inspires me each and every day.
Well, doggone.
Did I read that okay?
Did you read that? Yep. Check's in the mail. Thank you, baby.
Your endorsement. Here it is. You know, I got to say, I am fangirling hard today with our guest. I mean, she's a little bit of a local celebrity, don't you think?
Well, she is definitely a celebrity in my mind. I loved everything about her. I loved her presentation. I loved how she carried herself. I connected so hard with, like when you are trying to project one thing and you're like, I can do this, and sort of self-talking yourself in a good way, but at the same time, the other voice in your head being like, girl, you're not all that.
When I heard that she said yes to being in the show, she was on stage in Danville, Illinois, and that show was awesome. It was a co-production between us at the She Said Project and one of our amazing producers, Amanda Kroos. And Amanda put the cast together and found these incredible women. And when I learned that Mary Catherine Roberson was willing to be on our stage, I was blown away, a little bit intimidated and a whole lot excited, and just a super fan. For those who don't know, Mary Catherine received an awesome award from Central Illinois Business Magazine. They have their annual 40 Under 40, which I was one of the 40 Under 40, like when I was under 40, which was a very long time ago.
Well, I'd like to point out I was never, and I'm not bitter about it, and I don't hold a grudge, but go ahead and talk about it. Go ahead. That's all right.
Mary Catherine was not just in the class of, 40 Under 40. She actually was given the title Woman of the Year. And that's an honor and very, very exciting. I can't wait to dive in because there's a story to her rehearsal process where we unpacked her story and the things that we learned about what it takes to be Woman of the Year. She's here to tell us all about it. Mary Catherine Roberson, are you on the line with us?
Yes, I am. I'm here and very flattered.
Ah.
I'm so excited to hear your voice. I enjoyed every minute of working with you and your incredible cast for the inaugural show in Danville, Illinois.
Yes, I really enjoyed it too. It was definitely a process. It was
How did you get roped in? Who snagged you?
So Katie Osterber, who is Amanda's sister-in-law, mentioned the project to me and asked if I'd be interested and said there may be somebody following up if I was. So I had heard of the She Said Project from Champaign, so I was familiar with it. So I was, of course, intrigued. I didn't have any idea of the magnitude of it when it starts snowballing. Like it's such a big deal. So I got a phone call and was excited to join the cast.
Wow.
Now, you were in the cast, but do you remember when we were all digging into what the story topics were going to be? It did not come to you right away.
No. What I had originally thought I would talk about was more about like activism and organizing. And it was really, I think you and Amanda that were both like, no, this isn't about what you do for people. This isn't about what you do for the community. Like we hear about that enough. Like we want to hear about you, like your story. And that was so hard for me because talking about myself is, one of the hardest things for me to do. And so I don't think that I expected. Like I was like, oh, I'll write a speech, right? Like that's what I was thinking about. That's what she said would be like, oh, I'll write a speech for it. But it was like an internal deep dive that was much more intense and required a lot more reflection. Like it wasn't something you could just sit down and write. It was really a journey.
Well, I think it's always challenging for people to see where they land, but we do often tell people if, you are somebody who's well known in the community, you cannot talk about what you're well known for. And I think that makes it especially challenging because you've built a life around either advocating or, whatever the thing is. And we want it to be, because if you're sitting around with your girlfriends, you're not given them, the 411 pitch that you would give in an elevator. You're sitting around talking about
Right.
what happened, and that's what we wanted to feel like. And it is really a lot to ask of people to do that on a stage, in front of a couple thousand people.
It's a process, like you said. Yeah.
I was glad with we had meetings monthly, and then as we got closer, weekly. So we had a bit of time to process and put it down. And what I wrote originally, we ended up scrapping almost entirely. And then that little folded up piece of paper that was my first, my original speech that we were making notes on every session became kind of like our joke. And that's why the night of the event, we had a little skit where I had it tucked away in my chest and acted like I couldn't find it and brought it out because that piece of paper went from being a story about my activism to being really a reflection of wow, how come you can be this badass activist and still, tear yourself down internally all the time? Or how do you balance, this public image that you've presented with, what your voice tells you on the inside and really internalize and how that's impacted my life in negative ways. I said in the speech, we talk about the times where you're jumping anyway, where you pursuing in spite of your self-doubt pays off, but we don't always talk about when it doesn't. And I think talking about it with you all and going through that journey really helped me understand how often I did that and then really try to work to undo some of that negative stuff that I do to myself on the inside.
Oh, I'd love to hear that.
Were people shocked? What was the reaction? Did that take people off guard?
I think it did. I had several people stop me. Lots of people actually stopped me since that event. One thing that I said, I stated that sometimes in my head, it's like a voice almost like, you should kill yourself or you should hang yourself. And that was hard to say out loud, but that was something that two people specifically have stopped me about, that they were they wouldn't have thought that was something that I dealt with based on what I project. And I think just being able to share that moment of relatability, yeah, you can be a badass and still feel that way internally, and we fight through it and we try to process it, but having each other to talk about it with and knowing that somebody else that you may respect or look up to struggling with it too, I just think it gives us a shared sense of community and a little more empowerment to face it.
It's almost like you're human or something.
Don't tell anybody.
Right. The secret is safe here. Let's revisit your performance from A Dark and Stormy Night in March of 2023. Mary Catherine Roberson shared her story on stage in Danville, Illinois at the gorgeous Fisher Theater. Take a listen to her performance of Believing the Hype.
I am my own worst enemy. I don't say that loosely or in jest. The things I say to myself, I wouldn't dare say to any of you. In fact, I probably wouldn't say them to my worst enemy. My internal dialogue ranges from criticizing my appearance, you look disgusting in that sweater, to my intellect, you're dumb as hell. And at worst, my existence, you should hang yourself. For some reason, it's always hang. It floats through my mind the same way you might acknowledge that it's raining. I don't need a crisis call. I don't have any plans to harm myself, but these are thoughts that float through my head on a regular basis. The funny thing is that these internal thoughts remain largely unchanged by the outside world. What others think of me for most of my life hasn't really impacted how I feel about myself. What's also funny is that alongside these thoughts are also really high hopes and beliefs in myself. The notion seems contradictory, and it's one I've been exploring through this process. How does the woman who spends her life empowering others lack self-empowerment? How can I simultaneously want to change the world, but also lack the energy to get out of bed some days? I honestly believe that I can be the president of the United States. But also, not today. I don't really know where the imposter syndrome started. I thought maybe it started as an adult, but throughout this process, I realized it started before that. You see, I was a gifted child. And I'm not just saying that. I was in a program for motivated, academically talented students. The MATS program. Thank you. So I spent my formative years with the same group of students from third grade all the way through high school. And they were the doctor's kids, the on-the-lake kids, the kids who lived in neighborhoods I had never visited. My entire childhood, I never had another black female in my class. There was always one black male, but never more than one. So I think maybe this is where I learned that while I was exceptional, I was also not. I also started equating titles with money and power and started to see myself apart from them, existing with them, but not really being included. I can hang out with the doctor's kids. I can go to their beautiful houses if our car will make it across Lake Vermilion. I can talk the talk. I can even walk the walk. But I'm not one of you. Jump anyway. I use that phrase, which comes from a short motivational book, shout out Jason Reynolds. The book was called For Everyone, and I used that phrase in a speech last year. I talked about the feeling of not belonging, of not being qualified. I talked about opportunities I was scared to take, I didn't feel qualified to take, but I jumped anyway. I talked about when those leaps paid off, but what I didn't talk about was when they didn't. Like the job interview I had for my dream job at the time. I was dressed to impress. I had done the positive self-talk. I had listened to Drake's Started from the Bottom and Eminem's Lose Yourself. I was in my zone. But I went in before a panel interview of people and I felt like a little kid at the big kids table. I stammered. I apologized. I bombed. I didn't get that job. And it wasn't because of my lack of knowledge or experience. It was me. I was in my own way. I had psyched myself out even as I thought I was hyping myself up. Jumping anyway in spite of these internal struggles is courageous, but at some point, we have to address the anyway. Because jumping anyway is like jumping with a backpack full of bricks. You can still do it, but you're not gonna get as high. And with my backpack full of bricks, I've gone from being a battered baby mama in Danville to a cum laude graduate of DePaul University. Thank you. Leading the way for my 3 beautiful daughters. I have impacted lives. I've made systemic changes. In 2022, I was chosen as Central Illinois Business Magazine's 40 Under 40 Woman of the Year. But when I received the call that I had won, the first thoughts I had were, who do I know on that panel? Somebody I know must have tipped the scales, right? Wrong. I was named Woman of the Year because I earned it. From running for office to increase voter education and turnout in Vermilion County, to helping build the community gun violence reduction blueprint for the city of Champaign, to now representing my city as a federal employee, providing support to some of the most marginalized communities, and I've taken a whole lot of hell in the process. But I earned that award. So what would happen if I put down the bricks? It isn't an easy process. It's painful. I started going to therapy. Yes, I have therapy. My friends and family are excellent sounding boards. Prayers and meditation can help ease the daily weight. But to truly unpack a lifetime's worth of insecurities, I had to turn to the experts. It's still an everyday struggle navigating my inner voice through my current reality, but it isn't an act, and I'm damn sure not an imposter. And I can finally say I'm starting to believe the hype about me.
Honey, let me just start by saying I believed the hype day one. Like
Yep.
I was a believer. Mary Catherine is an inspiration in her community. You have been places, you have done things, and when the community stood up and recognized you for all that you do, you paused and said, "Wait a second, who do I know who tipped the scales?" And we all that was a learning moment for all of us discussing, your journey through that.
Absolutely. The phone call, when I got it, I literally told the woman to shut up. It took me a minute to process, and I weaved that story into my speech. I said, I promise I'll be more eloquent, the day of but it was just overwhelming. I think we do things and, we want to make the world a better place and we want to be good moms and we want to, there's just things that we do because it's our calling or our passion, or so to be recognized for it. Like, I just wasn't expecting it, because that wasn't, it's not why you do it. Like, we're trying to make the world a better place. So it's almost like you're what? I'm who? No, it was a moment of great pause, but a moment after honestly, it took me to the day of the event to when I found out who the judges actually were, to be like, oh, I really don't know any of them.
Could I have their phone numbers? Because I'm...
No, seriously. They're in the program and I still have it, so I'll screenshot it to you. It just was a truly humbling experience, and to be recognized not just for like work in Danville, but to be recognized within the central Illinois, like part of our state, was just, it was overwhelming and deeply appreciated, for sure.
And here you walk in to the first rehearsal, and this group of women, I knew you knew some of them and some were new friends. And, we're like, ooh, Woman of the Year. She's owning, who she is and celebrating. And to hear that you still had some insecurities, some doubts about how amazing you were, that was eye-opening for us and for you. And I hope by you hearing how much we admired you, like you said, it's going to take some time for me to believe the hype. And that was, in my mind, that was the process that we went through in those months leading up to the show. Like, let's look at this a little bit closer. Let's figure it out, so that, nobody wants to be that, that cocky person. Oh, I'm the best. But there has to be some true belief in yourself and some confidence, because that's what we want for every woman. Like you said, the stuff you say to yourself, you would never say to another woman, ever.
No, that's true. And I think for me, one of the biggest aha moments as we went through the process, I had a one-on-one with Amanda. I was stuck with that story. I was stuck. If I don't talk about who I am as an activist, what do I talk about? And as we started talking, and I mentioned the gifted program, and it's like, well, what was that like? And it just all kind of flooded out of me. It's like, oh my goodness, was that it? And that was something therapy had never brought out, reflecting with my friends, that had never brought out. That wasn't something I expected. So the story you all got was a story that part of it, I had to learn about myself throughout the process.
It was amazing. I loved that it gave, we have so many speakers that I think so often I look at them and I'm like, wow, they just seem like, amazing, like they've got it all together. And then I think it's such a gift when they share a struggle, because it is easy in the world that we live in to be like, they have it all together, and I'm just over here fighting for my life with this Reese cup bag. But then seeing somebody who no, everybody is going through stuff, and we can all just help each other out and up.
Absolutely. And it's a mental redirect. I was just telling my mom today, literally today, I promise, about how this process helped me with negative self-talk, because I said it's almost like now when I hear something in my head that's negative about myself, it's almost like I'm like, no, Mary Catherine, that's not true. It's almost like it's an internal struggle to redirect, but it's something that I consciously do, and I've been doing it every time. And I really credit, I'm dead seriously credit the women at the She Said Project, especially, Amanda and Jenette, just for pushing me beyond what I thought, and then just for really, believing the hype, for real.
I'm literally doing a happy dance here in the studio, all of it. It's like group therapy, and I can't say that officially, but we're holding up a mirror. We're showing you how great you are. We're gonna hold you accountable when you say the things that you would never say to your worst enemy. We're gonna stop you, and when you redirect, those habits and create new habits, like you said, it stayed with you. That made me so happy. And Amanda, that woman is a life coach. She is worth every dime, because just this positive, impactful person who she can look you in the eye and see your soul and tell you how great you are. And I don't know, she's like voodoo awesome.
I loved everything about that show. The shows that Jenette is a machine and is able to juggle all of these shows. And so when there's an out-of-town show, I often haven't edited or read them before. And it is such a gift to go to those shows and to truly experience the show as just an audience person. And I loved that show. The ambiance of that night, it was a stormy night. And it was so beautiful and lovely, and the theater down there is just gorgeous. It was such a nice, from the outside looking in, there was a clear camaraderie with the women. I had seen leading up to it, how much work, how much investment was coming from the director, from the speakers, from everyone. And it was just like, oh my gosh, I love being able to have this bird's eye view at these amazing women and coming together. And the beautiful thing is there's never like a diva in the show. Like seeing those, there's the stereotype of like, that women are competitive or that there's a diva in the group. And it's like, I hate to burst your bubble, but every single show, it's just a group of badass women coming together and supporting each other. And that was clear in Danville.
I have to
No,
agree.
absolutely. And some of the women I had known for years, some I didn't know very well, or like Bonnie, I knew years ago we worked together, but we hadn't, talked in years. And we've since like become closer friends since the show, and so I think it, brought some new friendships and, fortified some old ones. So it was definitely like a bonding experience that you didn't just walk away from the day after the show ended. We've since gone and watched DJ Silky, Janae Amatis, do her DJ thing in Hoopston. I went and saw Bonnie sing at an event. So I'm Dancing with the Stars September 30th, and they're already in the group chat. Like, are we going to go support MC? It's a fundraiser for our Survivor Resource Center. So
Tickets have been purchased.
I love it.
What? I did not know you were doing this.
Yeah. And I tell you, you talk about stepping out of your comfort zone. Like, this is a different type of stepping out of my comfort zone, but I'm very much not a choreographed dancer. So,
wow.
But everybody's like, it's, immediately in the group chat, it was like, let's go get tickets and support MC. It's beautiful to see that it didn't end after the show ended.
Mm-hmm.
How much did you share with your girls? Were they in the audience that night, or did you share any of the journey with them?
I did share the journey. They weren't in the audience, the storms and stuff. They stayed with a friend. I was a little worried they haven't listened to it. I haven't mentioned the part about the hanging to them. We've talked a lot with them about self-doubt. My middle daughter, like, you can't tell her anything about herself, and I love it. She doesn't have any of that. I feel like through my struggles, been able to try to teach them differently, but they haven't listened to the entire thing. But they're definitely, they've heard about the MAPS program and its impact, bits and pieces as I went through the process.
Even so, your story did have such a tribute to them and, the world that you wanted to create. And I just have to call it out because the origin of That's What She Said was, close friends sitting on a patio, watching their daughters play, and how do we make the world a better place for our girls? And that theme comes up again and again. And I love connecting with women who have, 1, 2, 3 daughters and just seeing, did it work? Are we on track? Do you feel the shift happening? And keep us accountable.
Absolutely.
Those are the things I think so many of us, like when we started this show, the other founders and our girls were little. And it is something that I'm really proud of now, is I think because it was important to us to show, we were always complaining about the stereotypes that were out there about women and that there weren't enough examples and blah, blah, blah. And then it was like, put up or shut up. And so we did it. I didn't let my girls come until they were late in their teen years. And there was a night that they had come to the theater and they were sneaking into the balcony and watched somebody that they cared about do their rehearsal. And so hearing them now say that they were trying to be sneaky up in the balcony, but that they were like so proud of Mrs. Cochran. And, those are the things like of them telling about growing up, watching, hearing, seeing women supporting women. Like, it was just a little goal. That was all we really wanted to do. And then seeing that has played out.
I'm really proud, and I hope that as my girls get older, that they maintain that sense of confidence and empowerment, because it took me a while to get here.
And I have to say, you're doing a phenomenal job. I get to witness, what your family's up to, and your girls are performers and they're on the stage and they're so brave and they're so courageous and they're out there doing it. And it's because of you. You show them that they can. You show them that there's nothing that can stop them. You are an example of what we've, always talk about creating at the She Said Project. So you're living it. You're living proof. I'm so glad you got to have a moment on our stage, shining your bright light on, our She Said sisters and friends. And it's forever. Like, you are in the sisterhood, and we're so grateful to just know you. We're just so grateful.
Thank you so much. I'm very grateful for you all as well.
And now there's a whole bevy of new ladies who are going to get to know Mary Catherine Roberson because, when this podcast episode airs, we want more women to hear these stories. We want more women to feel connected, to know that, oh my God, those voices in my head, it's not just me, but I can overcome and I can one day become Woman of the Year.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Believe the hype.
Believe the hype. You heard it here, folks, here on the She Said Project podcast.
Over and out.
Thank you for listening to the She Said Project podcast in partnership with Illinois Public Media. All materials contained in the podcast are the exclusive property of the She Said Project and That's What She Said, LLC. For more information on our live shows, go to shesaidproject.com. This podcast was made possible with support from Carl and Health Alliance and presented by Sterling Wealth Management, empowering women to live their best lives.